Stage 70 is the headlights and rear lights, and also this is where you complete the model, and you'll be doing some final setup at the end of this stage. You get the two headlights and the lenses, and the rear lights plus the lenses, and the various stickers to secure the lenses to the bodywork. For the next step, it may be easier to remove the front of the body shell. You need to cut out the two headlights, so you need to make a cut along this recessed line for each headlight. You could make a mark with pen around the area to be cut, or you can just follow the line, and you can use the normal method of drilling the corners and then cutting with a sharp craft knife to take out the recessed area, and then you do that on both sides. When you've cut the main openings for the headlights, you then need to just tidy up the corners and the edges of the headlight with a flat sharp file. When you're happy with the overall cutout shape, you can then take a headlight lens and just test it in position so that the recessed part of the lens will just fit through the opening of the headlight. Next, you need to peel off the protective film from each of the headlight lenses. Next, peel off and apply the transparent double-sided tape to each headlight lens. And then stick the lenses inside the front of the body shell, so the raised part of the lens fits through the cutout, and do that on both sides. Next, peel off the grey double-sided tape and stick that to the headlamps. You can then peel off the other side of the tape and then stick the headlamp inside the front of the body shell. And this is how the nose section should look with the two headlights in place. You can then refit the front nose section back to the body shell and then press the remaining tape onto the inside of the main body shell, like this, and that's how it should look with both headlights fitted in place. You then need to cut out the rear lights in the same way as you did the front lights, and these are the rear lights here, and the line is quite clearly defined. So you just cut around this line with your knife or with your scissors. And when you have the rough shape of the rear lights cut out, you can then go ahead and trim the rough parts off, and then maybe sand with a flat file or some fine grade sandpaper. And that's how the rear body section should look with the lights cut out and filed down. You can then peel off the protective film on the rear lenses. When you fit the rear lenses, you may need to trim off some of this surplus plastic so that the lens will fit snugly into the rear of the body shell. Install the lenses and the rear lights in the same way as you did for the front section, and then just press them into place. This is how the rear section should look with the two lights cut out and fitted. Before you can reinstall this to the main body shell, you will now need to cut out the exhaust cutouts as well, which are down here. And this is the completed rear section with both rear lights and lenses fitted, and the two exhaust cutouts are now tidied up as well. You can then refit the rear body section back onto the main body again. You can then fit these anti-friction plates onto each of the body mount posts. Just push those down onto the supports. You can then test fit the body shell. To do this, first of all, insert the exhaust through the exhaust cutouts. Then ensure that the rear posts come through the rear holes. and then locate the front posts through the front holes, and then press the body down. And that's how it should look when it's in place. For the second phase of stage 70, you need to take the switch supplied in stage 67, and you need to slot the wires down through the same routing as you did with the servo cables. So to do this, you'll need to raise the servo mount off the chassis by undoing these screws here. So just thread the cables under the fuel tank and then draw them out the same side as the servo cables, like this. You may need to loosen this box as well to get the cables from underneath this framework here. When the cables are in place, you can then locate the switch behind the switch mounts. When you have the holes of the switch lined up with the slots in the switch mount, you can then refit the front of the switch panel that you removed to fit the switch, and just lower that on, and then using the same screws that you took off the switch, you can just pop those in and then tighten it to the mount. When the switch and the switch plate are firmly screwed in place, you can then refit the screws you took out underneath, and be careful not to crush any of the servo or switch wires under the servo mount framework. So that's how the switch should look when it's fitted, and all the wires are routed and checked to make sure they're not being crushed, and the rear screws are back in place. You then need to connect the battery pack and the receiver to the servo and the switch wires. So first of all, you need to connect the battery to the switch cable, and then that will make this the battery connector then, because the battery is going through the switch and then outputting on this for the receiver. You can then plug this power cable into the receiver on the BC connector. You can then plug the steering servo cable into channel 1. To determine which is the steering servo or the throttle servo, just give the wire a tug from the other side so you know which wire you're dealing with, and then so plug that into channel 1, and then the other servo cable will plug into channel 2. You're now ready to fit the receiver and the battery into the RC box. But before you do this, you can cut yourself some thin foam and line the box first to protect the components against vibration. So just cut it to shape and press it into place. And you can fit the battery and then press the receiver into the end of the box. And then organise the wires so that they fit in the space in between, and so they're not going to get trapped by the RC box lid. The RC antenna can be placed inside the antenna tube of the RC box lid before you install it. In the final part of stage 70, this is where you make some adjustments and improvements to the setup of the car, and the first one being is with the throttle and brake rod joining the servo. you need to put the throttle rod underneath the servo arm and then put the screw on the second or middle hole on the servo arm so it's screwing from underneath. So you need to remove the servo arm first, and then that allows you to put the brake rod on top of the servo arm on the end hole. And another improvement is to add another collar behind the guide as well on the brake rod and tighten that up. You get a spare collar in stage 67 to do this. Another improvement is to trim off or cut off the end of this ball-headed screw on the steering servo. If you screw the screw all the way in, it will catch on the servo mount here. So you can either undo it slightly like I have on this one, or you can screw it all the way in, but make sure you snip off the end of this threaded end. You can also check other ball-headed screws to make sure that all the movement is free on all the connections and the links. The final adjustment on stage 70 is the suspension, and this is where you adjust the ride height and the camber and the track. All the dimensions are given in the instructions, so you just need to follow these instructions and adjust the suspensions front and back accordingly.